Basel Committee. Findings of an internal survey of the cross-border banking in 1999 by the Basel Committee identified deficiencies in KYC policies for banks in a large number of countries. It constituted a working group on cross-border banking to examine the then KYC procedures and to draw standards applicable to banks in all countries. It issued a consultative document called the Customer Due Diligence for Banks in January 2001. While the FATF's focus is on money laundering and terrorist financing, the Basel Committee's approach on KYC is from the wider prudential and risk management perspective and not just anti-money laundering related perspective. United Nations General Assembly resolution in 1990 calls upon the member states to adopt a national money laundering legislation and program. Accordingly, in India, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act PMLA 2002 was enacted in January 2003. The Act, along with the rules framed thereunder, have come into force with effect from 1st July 2005. The objectives of the PMLA are to prevent and control money laundering, to confiscate and seize the property obtained from the laundered money, and to prescribe fines and penalties for offence. And a very important feature of the Act is that the burden of proof is on the accused, not on the prosecution. The Reserve Bank's regulatory stance on KYC is with the aim to safeguard banks from being used by criminal elements for money laundering activities and to enable banks to understand the risk posed by customers, products and services, delivery channels, and helping them assess and manage their risk prudently. At the same time, the Reserve Bank is fully conscious that the KYC framework will have to be relevant to the perceived risk and not intrusive in nature, nor too strict, resulting in denial of banking services to the general public. As far as the Indian banking sector is concerned, some of the initial steps taken in respect of KYC are as under. Actually, these instructions are there for the past 50 years or so, as far back as from 1965. In 1965, we said that banks were asked to ensure that full and correct address of the depositors are recorded. That is to avoid benami accounts and avoidance of tax. In 1976, for opening accounts, in order to establish the identity of the account holders, avoid benami accounts, the concept of introduction was prescribed. In 1987, we said that there should be a reasonable gap of say 6 months between the time an introducer opens his account and introduces another prospective account holder to the bank. Introduction of an account should enable proper identification of the person opening an account so that the person can be traced if the amount is misused. In 1991, we said that no cash transaction above 50,000 rupees for travelers' checks or DDs or MTs or TTs like that. In 1993, banks were advised to keep vigil over heavy cash withdrawal by account holders, which may be disproportionate to their normal trade business requirements and cases of unusual trends. The banks were also required to introduce the practice of obtaining photographs of the depositors, account holders who are authorized to operate the said accounts. In 1995, monitoring and special reporting for cash transactions of value more than 10 lakhs was introduced. Like that, continuously we have been putting in place several tenets of this KYC framework. But in post-PMLA, there was a paradigm shift in the KYC structure. After the international focus on KYC, the Reserve Bank brought on a paradigm shift in the approach of KYC by banks in India. It moved away from introduction to document-based identification, hence introduction are not required. It also shifted the focus from financial loss from frauds etc. to the banks to the loss of reputation to the banks by non-compliance of these instructions. The other principles are that the KYC information collected is to be consistent with the risk perception and other information to be collected only with the consent of the customer, and the KYC related information is confidential, not to be divulged for cross-selling or for any other purpose.